In today's video, we're exploring a case that stunned everyone. A story marked by mystery, deception, and deep heartbreak. It all unfolded on August 21, 2017. On what seemed like an ordinary morning in a Detroit neighborhood, teenagers discovered their mother, not a hyena, lying face up and motionless in the garden. At first glance, it appeared as though she had simply fallen from a window. An unfortunate accident that no one could have anticipated. However, it quickly became evident that something wasn't right. As investigators examined the scene, certain details raised serious doubts about the initial assumption. Phone records, surveillance footage, timelines, and physical evidence all pointed to the same conclusion. This was not an accidental fall. Threatening a mother of three made no sense. Yet, the facts told a darker story. How did a family that appeared to be thriving suddenly become the center of a disturbing criminal investigation? Suddenly, the more details that emerge, the harder it becomes to believe this was truly an accident. In August 2017, an emergency call was placed immediately to the Farmington Hills Police Department, and an officer was dispatched to the scene. The address was located in a calm, well-kept neighborhood in Detroit. The call was made by 14-year-old Yael Ya searched desperately but could not find her mother, not a high. She checked every room in the house, growing more anxious by the minute. Eventually, Ya discovered Nada lying unconscious on the stone patio beneath the second-floor window. While she was still speaking with the emergency operator, Ya handed the phone to her 16-year-old brother, Muhammad Alantawi. He immediately began CPR, giving mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, while counting out loud. When the police officer arrived, he met him outside and guided him to the spot where their mother was lying. Muhammad was still desperately trying to revive her. The officer took over and continued life-saving efforts until paramedics arrived, but it was already too late. By the time medical personnel reached the scene, there was no heartbeat, and Nada was pronounced dead at the location. Her body was taken by the Oakland County Medical Examiner's Office, though the cause of death was still unknown at that time. The two older children told police that their 12-year-old sister had also been home that morning. She was still asleep and hadn't heard or seen anything unusual. A and Muhammad stated that no one had entered the house during the night or early morning hours. Ya mentioned that something felt off that day. Normally, her mother would have been driving her to school around that time. Ya explained that she was supposed to be at school by 6:40 a.m., but when it was time to leave, her mother was nowhere to be found. Her mom's phone didn't answer when she tried calling, and no calls or texts were returned. Police asked the teens when they had last seen their mother. A said the last time was the previous evening around 7 or 8 p.m. Muhammad added that he had heard their mother moving around in her bedroom earlier that morning, but after that everything went quiet. A told officers she kept calling her mom because she was running late for school. When there was still no response, she Searched the house room by room but found nothing. The family used a spare bedroom on the second floor as a makeup room. She noticed something strange. Right away. The window was wide open and nearby were a bucket of water, a bottle of tile cleaner, and a small stepladder. Her mother was nowhere in the room. When she went to the window and looked outside, she was horrified by what she saw. The moment she realized it was her mother, she immediately called her brother, Basil Alani. At the time, the children's father was living with someone else. As the marriage was falling apart and heading toward divorce, the kids were instructed to call him and ask him to come to the house. When Basil arrived, he was told that his wife had died. Overcome with grief, he collapsed, unable to stand, and fell to his knees as the family struggled to understand what had happened. Once Nadia was discovered, police began examining both the garden and the house. She was found lying on her back, which immediately raised concerns, as that is not the typical position for someone who had fallen from a window. There was also no blood around her body, something that made investigators suspicious right away. A fall from that height would normally result in far more visible injuries. Adding to the growing doubts, the room where N.A. was believed to have fallen from also appeared unusual. The bucket of water was neatly placed against the wall with not a single drop spilled. The stepladder remained in position and a bottle of cleaner was still sitting on the top step. Detectives also noticed a small piece of tape on a shelf, though they couldn't immediately determine its purpose. Even more puzzling were the streaks of dried cleaner on the outside of the window, especially since that type of cleaner isn't intended for cleaning glass. Police discovered a towel with a strong chemical odor in the backyard near the body, and it was collected as evidence. Investigators found no signs of forced entry or indications that anyone else had been inside the house. While searching the property, officers also noticed several security cameras installed outside. One of them was positioned in the side garden very close to where Nada's body was found. Although the guest bedroom window, where she was believed to have fallen, was not directly in the camera's view, the light from that room cast shadows onto the opposite wall, giving police an important clue that something wasn't right. In footage timestamped at 5:53 a.m., the light in the guest bedroom turns on. Moments later, the window opens and a figure appears in the frame. After a brief moment, the surveillance footage appears to show someone lifting Na's body from the ground and dragging her toward the window. Soon after, her body is forcefully pushed out. The shadow pauses briefly, almost as if the person is looking down to see what happened before moving around the room once more. These disturbing images made it unmistakably clear to investigators that this was not an accident or a tragic misstep. What initially seemed suspicious was soon confirmed as a crime. Once the autopsy was completed, investigators learned that Na had been strangled to death and the scene had been deliberately staged to resemble a fatal fall. She was already dead before her body was pushed from the window. Nearly everyone in the neighborhood knew Na. She was just 35 years old. A devoted mother of 3 and worked as a personal trainer at a local gym. Known for her active lifestyle and close connection to the community, Na had a deep love for sports and thrived on living an active, busy life. Neighbors often spotted her jogging in the early mornings, and her clients at the gym remembered her as energetic, friendly, and always willing to lend a hand. Her world revolved around her children. She made sure they were dressed and ready for school on time, ate proper meals, and stayed disciplined, never allowing laziness to take over in the household. Her dedication to her family was evident in every small routine and daily ritual. On the surface, everything seemed to function perfectly, and her life often carried a cheerful, lively atmosphere. Yet, behind that energy and warmth, there were tensions and fears. Nada and her husband Basil El-Tanawi were in the midst of a long-standing strained relationship and were moving toward divorce. They had married in Syria in 1999, spending nearly 2 decades together. But by 2017, Na had made the decision to begin a new chapter in her life, seeking independence and a fresh start after years of conflict. Na's plan for a new life promised freedom and independence. She wanted to make her own choices without being constrained by the tensions of her marriage. Just 2 days before her death, she was scheduled to appear in court for a divorce hearing, stemming from a serious altercation on Valentine's Day in 2016. Na had filed for divorce after claiming that her husband Basil had pushed her down a flight of stairs. The accusation led to criminal proceedings against Basil and he ultimately admitted to domestic abuse. As a result, Basil was sentenced to probation, ordered to stay away from his wife for 2 years, and required to wear an ankle monitor. Meanwhile, his professional life was also in turmoil. In 2016, he faced charges of Medicaid fraud, accused of submitting false medical billing claims while working as an internist. The case concluded with him paying nearly $280,000 in fines, compounding the personal and professional chaos surrounding the family at the time. After losing his job as a doctor, Basil also lost his income and financial stability. During the divorce proceedings, he claimed he could no longer afford alimony or support, describing the lifestyle he was expected to maintain as lavish and beyond his means. He also accused Na of raising their children as American kids, claiming she had drifted away from their Syrian and Muslim traditions. Given this history, it wasn't surprising that when Na died, police immediately considered Basil a person of interest. However, the security footage complicated the picture. The cameras showed no one entering or leaving the house that night. Only Na and her 3 children were inside. Basil had a solid alibi. His ankle monitor tracked his movements, proving he wasn't near the house until the police contacted him. To unravel the truth, investigators returned to the home security footage, analyzing it carefully to uncover what had actually transpired that fateful morning. One of the security cameras captured you handing the phone to her brother so he could begin CPR, moving frantically back and forth between the patio and the driveway. In the footage, she is seen guiding the police officer and then the paramedics to their mother. Muhammad also appears in the video, but investigators noticed something unsettling about his movements. While he leaned over his mother, his actions seemed unnatural, more like he was pretending to perform CPR than actually doing it. He barely pressed on her chest at all. Police later synchronized the video with the 911 call recordings and discovered further inconsistencies. During the call, Muhammad paused several times, even though his voice on the line made it seem as if he was continuously counting and performing life-saving efforts. In reality, he spent long stretches of time sitting next to his mother's body, doing nothing, which raised serious questions about his role in the tragic events. The 911 operator later remarked that Muhammad's actions appeared staged, as if he was putting on a performance to make it seem like he was trying to save his mother. When Ya and the police officer arrived, he applied a little more pressure to his mother's chest, but it still seemed mechanical and insufficient. In the initial footage, the officer saw Muhammad holding his phone in his right hand while lightly tapping his mother's chest with his left, barely performing real CPR. Once investigators uncovered these inconsistencies, they launched a much deeper investigation. The initial search of the house on August 21 had been quick. But later that day, police returned with a warrant for a more thorough examination. Inside, they discovered a brown bath mat in the washing machine. The machine displayed an error code, and through the glass door, detectives noticed white residue swirling in the water. Details that hinted at further evidence being deliberately concealed or tampered with. The white residue in the washing machine was likely the backing from the bath mat. During the search, police also discovered Muhammad's pants and t-shirt in the dryer. All of these items, along with the towel found next to Na's body, and other objects collected from the house, were sent for forensic testing. Investigators considered the possibility that one of these items had been contaminated with a toxic substance and may have played a role in the murder. The house contained numerous potentially poisonous substances. In the garage, police found antifreeze, bleach, weed killer, and rat poison, all of which were seized for further analysis. After reviewing the surveillance footage, detectives returned to the home and requested that all family members come in for formal interviews. Basil Alantawi, the children's father, declined to participate in the questioning, leaving the investigators to continue their inquiries without his input. Detectives were still at the house when Basil went to pick up Ya from school. However, he did allow the officers to speak with Muhammad privately. During questioning, it was reported that Muhammad had gone to bed around 11:30 p.m. the previous night and woke up around 6 a.m. Yet, when he spoke to the officer who first arrived at the scene, he claimed he had woken up at 6:30 a.m., a discrepancy that immediately raised suspicions. Muhammad initially insisted that he hadn't moved or gotten out of bed at all during the night. He only woke up when alerted him after discovering their mother's body. To begin the interview, investigators started with simple, non-confrontational questions. They asked Muhammad to recount how the morning unfolded, hoping to piece together a clear timeline of events. Muhammad claimed he wasn't aware that the security cameras in the house were functioning. But detectives confronted him with footage that told a different story. As they reviewed one of the videos in detail, it became clear that someone else could be seen standing next to his mother by the window. Investigators offered a careful, gentle suggestion that perhaps it had been an accident. They proposed that he might have been holding the ladder while helping his mother clean and she could have slipped. Despite their reasoning, the police remained skeptical. The video clearly showed a shadow by the window that belonged to someone with short hair and a build consistent with a male adult or older teen matching Muhammad's own physique. Throughout the questioning, he gave inconsistent accounts, telling different versions of the story more than once. The officers continued to ask him questions in a calm, non-confrontational manner, trying to encourage him to reveal the truth without making him defensive. At first, Muhammad claimed he hadn't been in the room when the incident occurred, but he later changed his story, saying he had been helping his mother. He explained that she asked him to hand her a spray bottle while she cleaned the window and he gave it to her as she removed the screen from the stepladder. Meanwhile, Basil El-Antawi had returned to his own house, staying away from the scene. About 40 minutes into the conversation, Basil abruptly intervened, insisting that his son could no longer answer questions without a lawyer present. When police later reviewed Muhammad's phone records, they discovered something striking. One particular number stood out. On the day Na died, starting at 4:27 a.m., Muhammad had called this number over 50 times, continuing well into the night. Notably, there were 8 calls from that number before 5 o'clock a.m., roughly an hour before the security cameras captured Na falling from the window, raising serious questions about who he was contacting and why. The number Muhammad had been calling was saved in his phone under the name Love. Investigators combed through his call logs from the previous month and found nothing remotely similar. He had never contacted this many people in a single day before. Many of the calls were either answered immediately or lasted only a few seconds. One call in particular caught the detectives' attention. It came in at 5:55 a.m. Precisely the moment the surveillance footage showed Na falling from the window after retrieving the teen's iPhone during a search. Police soon discovered that Love referred to his father, Basil al-Tantoy. Further investigation revealed that father and son had been exchanging texts for months. In their messages, Muhammad had sent Basil photos, videos, and audio recordings captured inside the house. Some of these files even included recordings of Na's private conversations, including discussions with her divorce lawyer. What stunned the investigators most was not just the content, but the casual way the father and son had labeled and shared these highly sensitive materials with each other. Muhammad had stored his father's contact under the name Love in his phone, while his mother's contact was labeled Dog. Among the files on his phone was a photo taken a month before the tragic event. It captured a message from Na to her son in which she revealed that she was aware of her husband's illegal activities, actions that could potentially land him in serious legal trouble. She admitted she hadn't spoken up sooner because she feared the information could be used against her. That image was immediately sent to Basil. From his response, it became clear that Muhammad interpreted his mother's message not merely as a warning about his father, but as a threat to the entire family. 3 weeks later, Basil received another picture from Muhammad. This time, the photo depicted the second floor window, the very same window from which Na would later be pushed, cementing the chilling connection between the communications and the eventual murder. Investigators noted that the earlier photo appeared to be a rehearsal. The window screen in the image seemed to be in the process of being removed, as if someone was preparing for the act that would later occur. Further evidence emerged when investigators discovered that someone had attempted to delete files from the family computer at 8:10 a.m. after Na had already died. At that time, both doctors and police were still present at the scene, suggesting that Muhammad was actively trying to conceal his actions. Within a few days, the 16-year-old was arrested and charged with the murder of his mother. Authorities stated that there wasn't enough evidence to charge Basil al-Tantoy despite his apparent involvement in communications and prior incidents. The case against Muhammad, however, appeared solid. Friends and neighbors who knew the family described the boy as deeply religious, strict, and firmly committed to tradition. Traits that mirrored his father's personality and added a complex, unsettling layer to the case. Na's daughters appeared to adapt well to life in America. They spent time with their mother going shopping, playing sports, and participating in everyday activities together. However, those who knew Muhammad reported that he believed his mother had changed. She was drifting away from the family and asserting her independence. He strongly disapproved of her growing autonomy, whether it was pursuing her career as a personal trainer or moving forward with the divorce from his father. Witnesses also noted that Muhammad was deeply troubled by the split between his parents and the thought that their home would no longer reflect the Syrian and Islamic traditions that had shaped their family for years. Tensions between mother and son were apparent long before the tragedy. Another witness later told police that the two had engaged in a serious argument, indicating that their relationship had been fraught with conflict and unresolved resentment. Leading up to the incident, about a week before Na's death, Muhammad reportedly said that she would get what she deserved. Investigators initially considered the possibility that he had killed his mother by smothering her with a cloth soaked in a toxic substance. However, due to difficulties in the investigation and complications caused By the pandemic, authorities were never able to determine exactly what chemical might have been used or where Muhammad obtained it. The court case extended over several years. Prosecutors argued that the murder had taken place in the guest bedroom's bathroom and claimed that Muhammad's motive was to prevent his mother from testifying against his father in the upcoming divorce proceedings. During the trial, the jury was shown surveillance footage depicting Muhammad seemingly stopping CPR while continuing to count out loud with the 911 dispatcher. Lawyers also presented the chilling video of the shadow at the window, which helped establish the premeditated nature of the crime. I took the stand to describe the strained relationship between Muhammad and his mother. I explained that he was strongly opposed to the divorce, believing that my mother was trying to take my father's money and property and in his view break the family apart. He thought she was tearing our family apart, I told the court. Meanwhile, the defense worked to challenge the prosecution's narrative. The defense argued that the police had not fully investigated other potential suspects, including Na's male friend and a coworker from the fitness center who had previously visited the family home. According to the defense, this individual had even broken into the house once without the children noticing. They also highlighted procedural issues, claiming that Muhammad's questioning had violated proper legal rules, particularly because he was interrogated before being formally read his rights. By law, a minor can only be questioned after being given legal counsel and informed of their right to remain silent. The boys' lawyers argued that Muhammad had merely repeated the story the police fed him, acting out of fear and without fully understanding the situation. Despite these claims, the trial itself lasted just over a week. After deliberating for 2 hours, the jury found Muhammad Ali Tanti guilty. He was sentenced to 35 to 60 years in prison. His father Basil was not charged and faced no legal consequences. Yana's daughter later said she believed both her brother and father were responsible for their mother's death, leading her to cut both of them out of her life completely. This is the tragic and deeply unsettling story of Nahai, a devoted mother whose life was cruelly taken in the very home that should have been her sanctuary and by someone she trusted more than anyone. If you found this case fascinating, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We post crime case videos every night. Until next time, stay sharp, stay vigilant.